Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Voices of Hult. Today, we're opening the Discovery Week for February. We have Joanna here, part of the team, and Professor Patrick. So welcome, Professor Patrick. How are you?
It's wonderful to be here today. I'm honored to be a guest on Voices of Hult, and I'm glad to have all of you joining us.
Of course. We know we're going to be talking about a hot topic, which is AI. But please, could you introduce who is Professor Patrick Lynch?
It's almost a homecoming for me. I recently began teaching at Hult full-time just this past fall semester. I had the opportunity to liaise with some of your faculty and administrators over the past year, and it was really clear. In fact, the topic that we're speaking about today is what drawn me to Hult. Hult was really ahead of the game. Many of the institutions were resisting or even skeptical about the way that AI would be impacting the future. But Hult, once again, we are the business school for those who do, and they were very much ahead.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you here at Hult. But how did you come here? The years before you came in, what did you do? Did you always work within AI, or?
What's your story?
Yeah, sure. Well, I say it was a homecoming because I began my career early with Accenture, and I was based right here in Cambridge. I was at a think tank called the Institute for Strategic Change, or Institute for High Performance. It was one of the first assignments that I had after graduating with my PhD in industrial organizational psychology, or broadly social psychology. I had earned my PhD after having my undergrad in psychology at Arizona State University, and I did my graduate work at University of Delaware. But here for the think tank, we were focused on the future of next. So always my career was focused on new technologies and the adoption of those technologies for how it was impacting business or institutions or people. And so at the time, when I speak to classes about this, the technology we're speaking about was the internet, or then mobile, and different ways that was disrupting or changing businesses. And then I ran global operations for a large big data analytic company focused on healthcare and disease states and digital visualization products for that.
Was that also here?
That was based in Phoenix, but it was a global role. So I had global operations in New Zealand and in Europe and such. And I began instructing full-time at Thunderbird School of Global Management, so maybe a little bit of a rivalry
Say hi
here.
to the old friends.
And I was delivering big data analytics and other kinds of strategic management courses for them. But bringing back to present day, or just about a year ago, especially AI was breaking. A lot of institutions were sort of reluctant, or maybe even dragging their feet a bit. And Hult was not one of them. So I was fortunate enough to have some colleagues here. And the first courses I began instructing last summer for the master's degrees were related to AI and the future of work. And I'm proud to say I'm among your faculty, one of the first set of faculty that have been focused on this topic for us.
Amazing. So you started working last summer, right? And you were teaching in San Francisco and in Boston. So you knew both of the campuses?
I do. And this is now my home campus. And to complete the homecoming thought, I am a Boston-based guy. So my family originally was from here. So even though I reside in other places, I've traveled many places around the world. In a way, this is my home, and I'm proud to be part of our community again.
Yeah. That's amazing. I think last year when I was doing MIM, AI was, ChatGPT was around and stuff, but it was forbidden. And I'm so happy that Hult is moving so fast, and everything in the curricula is already oriented to AI. And now even we have a new professor, right? So
it's really cool to see how Hult is really investing in this and investing in you. And we're really proud to have you as a professor here.
Well, you may be aware that just recently there have been many institutions, including my alma mater, which was Arizona State University. Thunderbird is part of Arizona State University, that just recently announced that the school is adopting ChatGPT, or OpenAI product. But again, we were ahead of the game. Students now here, we have access to Enterprise Bing, which of course is also based on OpenAI's product. So once again, I think that we are leading the way.
Great. So, and then how you started your career here in Hull. Like how what's the story? What happened? Like who contacted you? Who called you?
Well, I was fortunate enough to have a connection with Mona, who is the provost for the school, and we were doing some workshops for one of the accreditation bodies. I think one of the strengths of Hult, which is so unique, is that we have accreditations through 3 governing bodies globally, and the AACSB is one of those. So I was early on invited to collaborate with her for delivery of how is AI being adopted in the classrooms. One of the things that I saw early on, both in my own consulting practice and in for students, was it was offering a new way to expand our thinking. And students were not only able to think about what a prototype would be, but visualize it using some of the generative AI tools. And so that was some of the lessons learned that I was sharing with faculty, with the provost for Hult, and that was bringing this about for them to say, maybe this is a new way to enhance our teaching, and I think this is the way I got started.
Yeah, definitely. But then, as you also mentioned a little bit briefly, that when you started your career, AI wasn't really around, and it was more about like the internet and everything. So how did your passion for AI or technology start?
This is an excellent point. I think that grounding for me is, from a social psychology perspective, I've always been interested in the way that we as humans are interacting with innovations. If you think about it, we are innovation adopters. If we go back from the earliest times that we began to coalesce in communities, it was interacting with technologies. Technology at that time would be something like agriculture and tools for us to protect our communities and grow our families in a more sustainable, stable way. And throughout the history of time, all the industrial revolutions can be traced to the adoption of innovation or a technology, as simple as a precise way of measuring time or a precise way of doing something efficiently at scale. And as these technologies have come into our lives, we are really strengthening what it is that we are as a community, which is our social intelligence and our social influence. We want to understand what works, how to do it better, and this is what we see even in our social media today. Your TikTok feed is really fascinating, not just because it's entertaining, but because you're constantly listening for social proof about what works and why something is working. And that gives us comfort and strength in our own decision-making about the ways that these things can work for us.
Yeah, so it was really like more the psychological part that you were interested in rather than the technology in itself.
I think that it goes hand in hand, and there are many synergies that you can point to that the technologies are enhancing what it is that we do as people, and the way the more of these technologies come into our lives, we're generally better for it. I give you a quick example. Many people in the prior way of thinking was just around big data analytics, and there are many things that we should be wary about, and we are still living with today, trying to integrate the ways that we are sharing data. And this was very disruptive for a lot of companies. I remember one of the big concerns about big data or just even internet access is, will my retail shop now be irrelevant? Will it go away? Maybe now we are starting only to see some of this, but this has been discussion for almost 20 years. The truth is, over all of the industrial revolutions and even in the most recent times, we are seeing that these technologies are helping us be healthier, wealthier, and wiser. And so the preponderance of the evidence is that as we adopt these technologies and interventions in our lives, we are stronger for it.
I like the way of thinking that, and how do you connect the social part with that we are humans and how we are adopting different type of technologies to keep, being like a more developed world. And that's basically why or how your passion started, right? So it's like how we are doing or adopting these different things. And I think like we are currently in a process of adoption of new technologies that people's also afraid because, I would say people's afraid of the unknown. But I think we're in the moment to actually start learning and adopting and just know how to use this new technology on our favor, right?
Yeah, I think it's so cool the time we're in right now because we as students almost get to learn along with the professors on these topics. I was just in a technology and science class and we were talking about the different industrial revolutions when it comes to this. and we just talk about like AI and what effect we think we will have and everything. So it's really, really cool time right now.
It's like the human-machine collaboration you were mentioning the other day. And you also gave us an example of, I think it was like the CEO of KPMG. I don't know if you can remember.
It's an excellent example. So just recently, there was a major conference. We call it Davos, the World Economic Forum, gathers leaders from across industries and different organizations. And the COO of KPMG had the opportunity to address over 800 interns across different universities. And they shared with her that despite KPMG's expectation that the students would understand how to use generative AI, many of them did not have this skill, and they felt uncomfortable that they would be successful at KPMG. She agreed, this is a real problem. So at Davos, when she was addressing provosts and business leaders from around the world, she called this appalling. And she said, this is the expectation, this is the future of work, that we must augment what it is that we are expecting from our employees, and therefore we should have experience with these tools. So it is no longer an excuse. I think it's an expectation that we are embracing the future of work, which will be likely human-machine collaboration, and certainly human AI collaboration, to enhance what we're doing and deepen our critical thinking.
Yeah, and I'm happy that, I don't know if every school is already embracing or teaching AI, but Hult is doing it. And I think that's going to be an advantage once we graduate, because we're going to know how to use it. Like, I was afraid before, last year, that
you wouldn't be ready?
No, I was like, I'm going to go out in the market, and we're not even allowed to use AI in school. So how am I going to know
how are you
how to
supposed
use
to know?
it?
Exactly.
No, we have the professor, so.
Yeah, now you can tell us.
It is really the combination of having some technical acumen, and that does not mean that we all need to be coders or know Python. Certainly those are great skills, but it's the technical with the social. Some of the new ways of analyzing what is happening, when businesses are early on, when they are first adopting these tools and technologies, it is very common that they would look for technically skilled staff. So of course, we would be thinking about skills like data scientists or coders or other kinds of talent that can understand it at that technical level. But it is not too long after that. Once the AI systems become integrated into the business, you know who they need? They need business leaders that can be translators. They need to think about what is the strategic applications for these tools. And this means there's a huge opportunity, I think, particularly for business schools and for the kinds of students that are already here at Hult, lean into learning some of the technical skills, but you also should be embracing the things that we are traditionally very good at, which is our critical thinking, our creativity, and our strategic skills to understand how to apply what it is that the tools can do.
Well, having said that, what do you think that is the current state of AI? How the new businesses are developing within or using AI in
what's the latest?
Well, obviously, this is a very dynamic space, so it changes, all the time. Every day there are new cases and such. It's very difficult to keep up with this, and I think someone that is telling you otherwise, they're fooling themselves that they have their arms around all of it. But there are a number of cases and examples that we can already point to. One of the inspiring examples that I often speak about is RBS, the Royal Bank of Scotland, had adopted the chatbots, and many of us have had experience with chatbots trying to get information from our financial institutions. And one of the concerns, of course, to adopt it for a bank, they want to have a high level of customer service. But it turns out that most of the customer service agents that were giving routine information like what is my balance or what bills are due, they do not feel like they're very strategic. So the bot started to replace them. They did, in fact, replace their tier one, their first level of customer service agents with a bot. But that opened up new opportunities. There are now roles for the customer service agents to be bot trainers, to ensure that the bots have more empathy, to ensure that the bots have more appropriate responses, because none of us want to be in that circle where we're fighting, trying to get an answer. And they have found, significant growth in the customer satisfaction and their ability to meet customer needs. So just one example is that we're seeing roles starting to be enhanced by these things and also expand and have other opportunities to deliver value that previously were not available.
Yeah, so they're basically like inventing new jobs. Like they are not getting rid of the people, but they are assigning different things that are also more challenging for them, which is more fun while you work. Because if you're just sitting answering like, what is your balance? Like I wouldn't feel like I'm adding any value. But now that you have a bot dedicated to do that, you can do something different and use your time better, I would say, and
I would
add
say
more
that
value.
you get to level up, and we like to level up. I give you share another example just in this past year that I saw on the marketing side. Marketing roles in particular have been really early on adopters. If you were maybe a copy editor, for example, and you were writing blog posts or other kinds of social media content, that is wonderful, and we need that kind of skill. But now that the bots can help us, and you have tools such as generative AI for imagery, the same person who was a blog writer can also now create images to associate with the blog. And they know the audience very well. So we're seeing jobs in some industries expand. And this is very liberating. It's very freeing for someone to say, I don't have to go knock next door on someone that is a creative in order to make an image, but I can do that myself. And so while there will be unevenness, I am not trying to say that it will be this way for everyone. There are going to be industries that are hit, and it depends on the circumstance, but there is this opportunity for more job expansion and more job enriching experiences, and that is very exciting for many.
Yeah. So there will just not be like less job, it will just be different jobs because of AI.
Yeah, and I think, these traditional business are evolving with this, and it sounds like fun. Like a lot of people is afraid actually saying like, oh my God, we're going to be replaced with robots or whatever. But I mean, if you think like that.
Yeah, it's true. It's also more exciting because then you don't have to like maybe spend time doing less fun stuff. The AI can do that for you.
Actually, I'm having a class right now, which is visualizing and analyzing data with R. And literally, it's like with one code and everything, you can make PowerPoint presentations. And it's like you click and the whole presentation is done. And I'm like, what? I needed to know this before.
It's so cool.
I think that can be very eye-opening, but is this also your call to action? So if the machines or the bots or the technology are able to do these tasks much more quickly, where then is your opportunity to add value? Your opportunity to add value will be reliant on your critical thinking, on your creativity to build on and enhance what it is that is there available. So it's really also a shot across the bow for everyone to really pay attention now to the new ways that you can build on these skills. It is no longer going to be enough to simply create the PowerPoint deck or even traditional strategy analyses that you would do. That many of your classes probably have taught you some things like a SWOT analysis or some kind of five forces competitive analysis. So those things now can very quickly be done very well by the bots. So now you are on point. What will you do to enhance or build on that? And I see this as inspiring. This is the opportunity for us to grow and show what it is that we can do. But that means that you cannot rely on, if you can push the button, so can someone else. So you'll need to be building on that.
So that's like the main way that AI will transform the business world right now, that it will like expand roles, as you mentioned, with the marketing, but then also that we need to start thinking more like creatively, okay, now the AI is doing this for me. What can I do to make it even better?
I definitely think we'll all need to be leaning into that. And I don't think there are many professions that will be immune. Even we as professors are being disrupted from our daily routines on the kinds of ways that we build classes or build engaging experiences for students. But so far, and I think the trajectory will continue, that we can find ways to enhance our classroom instruction and find new ways to inspire our students to expect more out of themselves, because indeed that is really the future of work.
So I think now we're setting a new base, and I think like in terms of the workforce, there's some other skills set that are going to be required for different positions in the future. As you were saying, like you need to know how to use AI or these different tools, but it comes to the part like you need to learn how to come up with the better analysis or something with the information you are getting, right? And we were in the last episode that we had in the Discovery Week. We were also talking with the Professor Paul. He was saying like we're setting a new base or expectations when it comes to be a professor from the deliverables from the students. So that's also is taking us to a different level, to different expectations, because we all have the access to the same information. Like I think you were mentioning that before you had to go to the library and look in the little thingy, the little thingy for the book and taking notes.
But now AI is making us be much more efficient.
I think it's a good example. I think you really just want to out how old I really am. No. Yes, I have independent memory of this thing called a card catalog that is in this place called a library, a place that you would go. But anymore, yes, of course, as that information is at our fingertips and we're able to call it up, that is already a revolution in the way that we were teaching. Imagine how much more efficient we are in the classrooms, that we can deliver knowledge at the point of the opportunity for the need for that insight. And so we take it for granted now. Tools like Canvas or other digital learning platforms have helped us ensure that the content is readily available. I don't need to wait for you to go and research that on your own. And so therefore the speed by which we are able to deliver the insight and gain some advantage has already been expedited, and this will continue now, I think, with AI. It is inspiring for a student to have the vision of a product prototype in the morning and in an instant able to visualize this to share with others. And I think this is the way that it will enhance our learning.
Agreed. But then what does that mean? Like, what do we need to practice on now? Because we can be so efficient with AI.
Yeah.
So what do me and Rafa have to think about? Like, what skills should we practice?
The old saying, a rising tide raises all ships. So again, because all of us now have this opportunity to touch the technology, and that expectation is the new normal, the new foundation. It's not just cliche to say this. We will need to really lean into our creativity, our ability to think analytically about what the information means, and our critical thinking of this is really what the expectation is. This is not just my opinion. This is really the opinions that we are seeing. Consultancies have been one of the groups or industries that have been disrupted, or if you want to call it that, or maybe even inspired, but roles are changing. Recently, you may have seen there's news that there have been even some staff reductions for some of the blue chip companies like McKinsey. But others, for example, we mentioned KPMG earlier, they're already leaning into this, and I just think that it is a matter of time that we will see yet new roles that will emerge and new expectations for the capabilities for our consulting.
And I think you also mentioned the other day that AI is also going through this process from remember to create, right? So it's just the way we're using it.
It's a really good point. Many of us in formal educational roles understand that there are different levels of learning. Technically, we refer to this as Bloom's taxonomy, and we build many of our courses around that. So the lowest level of learning, of course, is memory. So I can quiz you. Once you learn the information, I can ask you, is it this or that? And you could regurgitate that information. Certainly, AI is most disruptive there. This is why many institutions, even today, such as high schools or grade schools, they're very concerned about AI because maybe students would not be so willing to memorize that information because maybe the bots can do it for them. This is true. However, as you get to the higher level of those taxonomies, such as creativity or innovating, that is really where AI becomes much more of a collaboration tool. And there are certainly techniques, and these are things that I think that we are leaning into at Hult, of leaning into that. An example would be, I have the prototype concept, and now I can see it. This is a way of enhancing our learning and showing that we are augmenting what it is that we are doing with the tool, rather than just leaning on it to regurgitate basic information.
Great. So I also am a little bit curious, and this topic about ethics. What do you think?
Yeah, because we've been so positive now. Honestly, we've been like, AI, go AI, it's so good. But yeah, like what are ethical considerations that businesses and us as students need to take in consideration?
The ethical considerations are very, very important. In fact, just recently, again, from the Davos conference, the World Economic Forum reinforced that if you look at the top 5-10 threats to our world economy, disinformation, misinformation, cybersecurity threats are at the top of the list. And indeed, the availability of these generative AI tools is part of that. So it's easier now than ever to have a fake messaging or fake campaigns, and you can almost find this information on the news daily. I know that recently here in Boston, for example, there was a story about how artificial intelligence was being used to have bot influencers, and that this could be, in fact, have negative effects on many young people that are comparing themselves to literally an artificial, standard of reality. So I think this is partly one of the big concerns globally. And bias is another. This is very much a concern. The tools are only as good as the information it's been trained on. Right now, many of the tools have been trained on the internet. So if there was a bias on the internet, it shows up in the tools.
Yeah, that's true.
And there are some alarming examples where tools simply cannot show a balanced view or even a desired view of a certain situation simply because it never saw that situation. And in fact, that's a mirror. It's a mirror on society. So these are real threats. We can also see if the tools are automating certain professions, and certain professions, again, are maybe differently distributed in terms of who is working in them, in terms of ethnicity, gender, culture. Those things really matter. Yeah. And you could, in fact, have a negative effect then disproportionately on certain populations if those jobs go away or are somehow automated. So we are very mindful of that. However, the bigger picture, longer term, is many are seeing these things could help. And in fact, the environmental crisis, which you can point to many things that we should be concerned about. These generative AI tools are very energy intensive, for example, and they have an effect that we really need to pay attention to. If we don't take care of it with maybe cleaner energy, it could be a negative effect. But longer term, maybe they could offer us some help, because some of these problems are pernicious. They're difficult to solve because we do not have a perspective to take in all of the information. And in this sense, maybe AI could help us. And I'm not alone with this thinking, but many C-suite executives are pointing to the fact that, in general, we need to try to use these tools for good, and that they may, in fact, help us as a community, as a society, to be more effective and efficient. And this could be something that helps us globally.
Precisely, but we need to be cautious, as you say. But it sounds like the glass is half full for now.
I think that you can have equal perspectives on this, and on the daily you can choose whether you think that the glass is half full or empty. But I think over the history of time, when you look at these innovations, as I had shared earlier, we are generally, as a population, we are healthier, wealthier, and wiser for the benefit of these innovations. So whether it's better healthcare or more literacy or just even more voice in our communities and the way that we vote, we can see that these technologies in the past have been helpful. So why not? If you have the choice you can live in fear or you can embrace it. So I think I want us to be the change we want to see. And the changes we want to see will come about if we are actively participating to make sure that policies and protections and guardrails are appropriate in place. And that does not happen if we have our heads buried in the sand.
And is there any agreement or anything that how you can properly use AI or the applications of AI, or how is this regulated? I have no idea.
Yeah, well, it's definitely emerging, and I would say it's early days. If you think about it, many people are more familiar with privacy protections, for example. Many of you know the acronym GDPR. GDPR was a European standard to give us some general protections so that we are consenting to share our information appropriately, and it gives you some rights. We are even earlier days right now when it comes to things like AI. If you've been monitoring this right now, there are many lawsuits in different countries that are arguing that certain protections need to be given. And we might not have the right tools even to protect some of these things like copyright or some of the things that work. So yes, we certainly need to be mindful of that. And there's not a simple answer. Early, just this past fall, there finally are some multi-country agreements on some early foundations for transparency and application of AI in our lives. I think that this is a healthy step in the right direction, but it is not enough. So again, the solution should be participate, get involved. Don't be, saying this is somebody else's problem to take care of. We need to be users of the tool and stay in the loop. There's literally a philosophy called humans in the loop, and that goes for coding and using the tool. So understand that the technology and the applications are being done with us and through us at our direction, not to us and, at someone else's direction. And this is probably a healthy way of thinking.
Yeah, I like that perspective.
Great. So for everyone out there, please start using technology and learn.
Yeah, adopt to the
Come to Hult.
technology.
We have a professor here. Thank you so much for sharing all this knowledge.
The insights have been
yeah.
very valuable.
So as we always do in every episode, we have a question from our previous guest that we're going to ask you. Or do you have the question, Joanna?
Yeah, I do. Are you ready?
Okay. I don't know what this is coming.
Okay, so the question from the previous guest is, how do you make sure you get a good start to your day?
Oh, that's so good. Well, coffee.
Yes.
My friends and family know that I have become a coffee connoisseur of late. I am getting hooked on making home espresso, and I've made some investments in that.
No dunking?
No, and I love my Dunkin'. I'm a Boston guy, so I can't speak badly about that. But my home brew is definitely there. But I think also we touched on this a little bit earlier. Just here is doing some yoga, so doing some centering exercises. So I typically do start my day with just it's literally 5 minutes of a routine, and that can really help. I think everything stays better in those days that I can do that.
Yeah, I just started doing yoga in the morning recently, actually, and I noticed a difference. Honestly, I'm much happier, more energetic, so it works.
I think it really, really works. I practiced yoga, I think, for 2.5 years, and I stopped because of COVID. Basically, I was doing yoga with a group of people, with an instructor and everything, and when I started doing it by myself, I didn't like it.
It's much more boring.
I don't know. So I was like, no, I cannot do this. So I cannot stop. But
Well,
I would love to.
I'm inviting you to come back.
Yeah,
Just
let's
do 10 minutes, and that's
Right.
enough. It doesn't
Yeah,
need
and
to be a
Hult
big
actually
thing.
also has yoga sessions every
yes.
Tuesday, I believe.
There you go.
Tuesdays, we have 1 hour of yoga. So
Yeah, you should go.
come to Boston.
Yeah.
Well, now we're going to give you the opportunity to make a question to our future guest.
This is great. I love this part of the program, and that you have honored this, and I'm excited to share this. So I was reflecting a little bit on some of the themes that we were speaking about even today, that I believe strongly that our social intelligence and social influence strengthens us. And one of the ways that we do that is through rituals, and the rituals that are important to us are different holidays or different special occasions, birthdays, weddings, or events. And so I would ask the next guest, what's your favorite holidays or special occasions, and why?
Interesting.
Yeah. Do you want to answer that, Joanna?
Me?
Yeah? Or you, Professor? What is your...
I think the professor first, and then, so I can think a little bit.
Well, I do like the holidays are, as I get older, and I happen to have, well, don't do it my way, folks. I have an adult child that's just getting her PhD, and another finishing her master's in medical school, but I also have a high schooler. So it takes a special occasion. Yes, thanks for joining. See, Dad knows a little bit of something. But it takes a really big special occasion like the winter holidays for us to really gather and have special times together. So I would have to say for us it's probably the time between New Year's, Christmas and New Year's, and one of the special events that we do is bowling every year. So I enjoy getting together with our family so that we have even just an afternoon together. So that's probably the top of my list.
Yeah, I agree. It's the same for me, honestly. Like that around Christmas time when the family is gathering, because it's sad, like you grew up with your family, and then now is the age when everyone just goes out in the world and explore, and you don't see each other as often.
Nice. I would say for me, is it like a holiday, or it could be a celebration or something? Celebration as well. I love my birthday. I'm a super social person, so I just need an excuse to do something with all my friends. And I'm like, it's my birthday, you have to come. Like,
True.
I'm sorry, you have to come. So I would say it's my birthday. I always celebrate it big time. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Good.
I
You should.
understand. If you must be like one of my daughters. She has a birthday month. Okay, so I
Yes.
understand. It's just having that special occasions for.
Yeah, I just recently celebrated my birthday in the masquerade in Holy. They happen to have it at the same time, so why not?
Of
Yeah.
That was
course,
cool.
I
Yeah,
told
what
you.
a coincidence.
What a coincidence. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
being here today. Thank you everyone that is watching us. So see you next time.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.